You've maybe caught yourself wondering which Australian city is actually the easiest place to grow old. And I'll tell you right up front, Adelaide is by far the calmest city to do exactly that. And it's not the beaches or the sunshine that make it so. But before I get into all of it, it would really mean a lot if you'd subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It genuinely helps us out over here. Now let me take you back 4 years because that's where this story really starts. I was still in Ohio then, another gray winter dragging on, the kind that settles into your bones and doesn't let go. I'd be out there before breakfast, shoveling the same stretch of driveway I'd shoveled 100 times, my breath hanging in the air, and I remember standing there one morning thinking, is this really it? Is this what the good years look like? Because here's the thing nobody tells you about retirement. You picture it as rest. But the rat race, that old hum of always being behind, always having one more thing to do, it doesn't just switch off because you stopped working. It followed me right into my 60s. The calendar was emptier, sure, but that itch, that low-grade rush, it was still there. If you've ever stood at a frosted window in February wondering if this gray is really it, then you and I already understand each other. That's exactly the feeling I'm talking about. And it's exactly the feeling that carried me all the way to the other side of the world. Because that itch for something warmer, something gentler, something slower, that's what brought me to Adelaide. And I'll be honest with you, it's the same thing that still puts a smile on my face every single morning when I step out under this wide South Australian sky. 4 years on, and it hasn't worn off, not one bit. Now, you'd think what got me was the coast, the postcard stuff, the sunshine, but it wasn't. What surprised me most, what really got under my skin in the best way, was the rhythm. In Adelaide, nobody's rushing, and I mean nobody. You walk out your front door into a suburb like Unley or Norwood, with the big old trees leaning over the street and the light coming through soft and green, and the whole place just breathes slower. You pass a fellow walking his dog. You nod. He nods back. Maybe you stop and talk about nothing at all for 10 minutes, and no part of that feels like a waste of time. That's the part that took me a while to understand. Back home, 10 minutes was always 10 minutes I owed to something else. Here, the day doesn't press on you. I had a neighbor put it better than I ever could. Carol, a retired schoolteacher who's been here 12 years. We were talking over the low front fence one afternoon, me with a coffee mug in my hand, and I was trying to describe this feeling, how the days felt different here, lighter somehow, and she just smiled and said, "Here you don't chase the day sort of ambles alongside you. The day ambles alongside you." I've thought about that line more times than I can count, because that's it exactly. You're not running to catch up, you're not falling behind, you're just walking together, you and the day, at an easy pace, all the way to the porch chair in the evening. Now, I'd love to tell you that all of this just falls into your lap the minute you land, that you step off the plane and the calm wraps around you like a warm towel. And the calm part, the living part, honestly, it really is that easy once you're here. But there's a piece that isn't. And I'd be doing you a disservice if I pretended otherwise, because here's what nobody warned me about. Getting here, the actual path, that's where it gets murky. When I first sat down to figure out the retiree visa steps, the forms you file once you're in country, the real numbers on what a month actually costs, my head spun a little. There's a whole layer of quiet little things nobody puts in the brochures, and I spent my first stretch out here guessing at things I shouldn't have had to guess at. And that's the exact reason I finally sat down and put everything I'd learned into one honest guide. I call it OnewayGuide. It's all my hard-won knowledge from these 4 years in one place. The retiree visa route laid out plain, the real monthly costs so nothing catches you off guard, and those quiet in-country tricks you normally only figure out the slow, expensive way. It's simply the shortcut I wish somebody had handed me back when my own head was spinning. If you're seriously weighing Adelaide, you'll find it linked down below, and there's a code on screen you can scan. But once that path is planned out cleanly, it runs smooth as anything. I'll show you exactly how well it can go a little later. I've got a story about a buddy of mine that'll put your mind right at ease. For now, though, let me just sit you in it, because the calm here isn't an idea. It's a thing you can smell and hear. It's the eucalyptus after rain, that sharp, clean, green smell that rolls in off the hills and fills the whole street. It's the salty breeze coming up off the water in the afternoon. It's the cockatoos screeching in at dawn, this big raucous racket right outside the window. And instead of being annoyed, you find yourself lying there grinning because it means another gentle day is starting under that wide, pale gold sky. That's the rhythm. That's what I mean when I say Adelaide is the calmest place I've found to grow old. But here's what really surprised me, and this is the part I want to sit down and show you properly. This calm, this slower pace, it doesn't just do something for your peace of mind, it does something real for your wallet too. I'm serious. My Social Security check and my little pension stretch further here than they ever did back in a bigger city. Further than they would in Sydney, that's for sure. And I don't mean by a few dollars. I mean in a way you actually feel at the end of the month. So let me show you what that actually looks like when the bills land. The rent on my comfortable 2-bedroom near the parklands, the weekly shop at the Adelaide Central Market where the fella at the fruit stall knows my name. Let me lay the real receipts out on the table for you, plain and clear. So let me pull it out and show you right there at the kitchen table, end of the month. Coffee going cold beside me the way it always does. That's when I do my little sit down with the numbers, same as I did for 40 years back home. And I'll tell you straight, the first time I laid it all out here in Adelaide, I read the bottom line twice, just to be sure I hadn't fooled myself. My Social Security check stretches further here than it ever did anywhere bigger. That modest little pension I used to fret over, it breathes easy under this sky. So let me lay the receipts on the table for you, plain and clear. Start with the roof over my head. I've got a comfortable 2-bedroom near the parklands. Leafy street out front, a big old gum tree that sheds its bark all over the footpath and doesn't apologize for it one bit. When I signed the lease, I sat across a little table from the landlord, an easygoing fella named Doug, and I kept waiting for the catch, the way you do after a lifetime of American fine print. There wasn't one. What I pay for that place is a good deal less than those coast towns up north were asking, and don't even get me started on Sydney. Sydney was another planet on the rent front. Here, close to all that green, I get more space, more quiet, and more money left over when the month's done. Now, if the number that scares you most is the one at the bottom of the grocery receipt, stay right here with me, because this is the part that surprised me most. Every Saturday morning, I take my canvas bags down to the Adelaide Central Market and I do my weekly shop the old-fashioned way, stall by stall. And there's the fella at the fruit stall who knows my name now, calls out Morning Jim before I've even picked up a peach. He'll slip an extra handful of cherries in the bag when they're good and tell me straight when they're not worth it. That right there keeps my grocery bill honest, fresh, local, no fancy packaging, no wandering the aisles buying things I never meant to buy. I walk out with a full week of good eating for less than I'd ever have guessed. And that's the quiet secret of this whole town, folks. The calm itself saves you money. Back in Ohio, the rush cost me plenty. You're busy, you're stressed, so you grab the takeout, you buy the little thing that makes the hard day easier. Here, nobody's rushing, so you're just not spending to keep up with anybody. Remember what my neighbor Carol told me over the fence? You don't chase the day ambles alongside you. Well, a budget breathes the very same way. When your life isn't nickel and diming you at every turn, the wallet relaxes right along with your shoulders. The calm and the budget, turns out, are the same thing. Take my utility bill. When I look at the power and the water at the end of the month, I notice something every single time. It's gentle. Doesn't wallop me. No furnace roaring 6 months straight against an Ohio winter. No driveway to shovel. No heating bill that makes you wince. Mostly the windows are open, that salty breeze off the coast doing the cooling for free, and the smell of eucalyptus after the rain drifting right through the kitchen. So I pour my coffee, I look at that bill sitting on the table, and I just nod. It all adds up, piece by piece. Smaller rent, honest groceries, an easy bill. Bit by bit, the dream turns out downright affordable. And if healthcare is the worry that's been sitting on your chest, let me set your mind at ease right now, because I know that one keeps good folks up at night. Here's the truth of it after 4 years on the ground. The doctors and the hospitals here are genuinely top-notch. My own doctor is a kind, unhurried woman a few suburbs over who actually sits down and listens, doesn't stand there with one hand on the doorknob. The care is calm and it's thorough. Now, so you can enjoy all that with total peace of mind, solid health cover is worth its weight in gold, and I mean that. I took a little time when I first arrived, compared a couple of plans over a cup of coffee at this very table, picked the one that fit me, and that was that. Ever since, I've had that wonderful feeling of being completely covered, no knot in the stomach, no dreading the mailbox, just good care when I need it, and quiet the rest of the time. Now, plenty of folks worry about the distances out here, and I understand exactly why. Australia is a big country, and it can look downright daunting on a map. But Adelaide, bless it, is built for a fella my age. It's compact, it's flat, and it doesn't fight you. My little errands all sit within a short, easy drive. The doctor, the market, a mate's place for a cuppa. No white-knuckle freeways, no crawling through an hour of traffic just to fetch a loaf of bread. You point the car down one of those wide, open roads with room to breathe, the cockatoos screeching in overhead at dusk, and getting around starts to feel like part of the pleasure rather than a chore. For older bones, that kind of ease matters more than you'd ever think. So there it is, laid right out on the table for you. The numbers hold up, the rent, the groceries, the bill at month's end, the health cover, the easy driving. Every last one of them landed softer than I feared it would, and together they add up to a life you can actually afford under a wide, warm sky. I won't sugarcoat one thing for you, though.
There's a piece of this I have not sorted out for you yet, and I'm not going to pretend it sorts itself. When I first looked into the retiree visa steps and those in-country forms, the whole paperwork side of the move, my head spun a little, I'll admit it. That's the part nobody warns you about, and it's the one hurdle still standing between you and a porch like this one. But here's the thing, and this is exactly why I care so much about you getting it right. It only spins your head until somebody shows you the path. So let me tell you about my buddy Frank, who flew out here from back home last spring, nervous as anything about whether he could really manage a move like this, and what happened in his very first week. So there he was, Frank, my old buddy from back home, stepping off that long flight last spring with one battered suitcase and a look on his face I knew far too well, because it was my own face, 4 years back. He'd been calling me for months, nervous as anything, asking the same question over and over. Can a fella my age really pull this off? All those retiree visa steps, all those in-country forms that spun my head the first time I looked at them too. He was sure he'd trip over something, and I just kept telling him, "Come out, Frank, come see for yourself, and if a little voice is telling you right now that you're too old or that it's too late to start over, I want you to hear what Frank did in 7 days. 7 days. That's all it took. The first thing that had him worried was the health cover. You remember, the very thing we were just talking about, the piece everybody frets over before they come. Well, we sat down at my kitchen table on his second morning, coffee going cold between us, and we walked through it the same easy way I'd learned it. He picked a solid private plan that fit his budget, sorted the paperwork, and by lunchtime it was done. Done. He sat back in the chair and just sort of laughed, this quiet, surprised little laugh, and he said, "That's it? That's the thing I lost sleep over for 3 months?" And I said, "Yep, that's the thing. Once you know which form goes where, it's an afternoon, not a mountain. That's the part nobody warns you about. Not that it's hard, that it only feels hard from the outside." By the middle of the week, he wasn't a nervous visitor anymore. He was already loosening up, walking a little slower, talking a little softer. Australia does that to a man. And then came the Friday. And that's when I think Adelaide really got its hooks into him for good. Some friends of ours were throwing a barbecue by the sea down at Glenelg. If you don't know it, Glenelg's this bright, breezy little seaside spot at the end of the tram line, white sand, the old jetty stretching out into the water, families out enjoying the evening. We brought Frank along, and within about 20 minutes he was standing at the grill next to a couple of American expats, a retired couple from Michigan who'd made the very same leap a few years back. And you should have seen it. They were swapping stories about their first winters gone, laughing about the funny turns of phrase you have to learn out here, trading tips like they'd known each other for years.
Frank turned to me at one point, plate in hand, and he said, "I thought I'd be the only Yank for 1,000 miles. Turns out he was surrounded by folks who'd walked his exact road. That community you worry you'll never find? It builds faster than you'd ever believe out here, faster than back home if I'm honest with you." And then the sun started going down over the water. We were sitting there, the salt breeze coming in off the Gulf, plates cleared, and the cockatoos came screeching in at dusk. If you've never heard it, it's this wild, ragged chorus, dozens of them wheeling in against a sky gone gold and pink, settling into the gum trees for the night, loud as anything, and somehow the most peaceful sound in the world. Frank went quiet, just watching them, and I watched him watching, and I knew. That was the moment the calm got right under his skin. You can explain this life to a person 100 times, but there's a moment where they stop hearing it and start feeling it. For Frank, it was the cockatoos at dusk down at Glenelg. Here's the turn that still makes me smile. The man who'd flown in terrified he couldn't manage a single form. By the time he flew home that next week, he wasn't asking whether he could do it anymore. He was picking his suburb, sitting at my table with a map spread out, pointing at the leafy streets near the parklands, weighing this one against that one, asking me about rents and walking distance to the market. 1 week, from white-knuckled on the jetway to choosing his own quiet street. That's Adelaide for you. That's exactly what this place does to people once they stop being scared of it. So let me say the thing plainly now, the thing I promised you at the very start. Why Adelaide? Of all the cities in this big country, Sydney, Perth, the Gold Coast, all of them, why do I sit here and tell you Adelaide is by far the calmest place to grow old? It comes down to 3 things that only line up here, all at once. First, the rhythm. That unhurried salt air, eucalyptus after rain kind of calm, where nobody's rushing you and the day just breathes slower. Second, your money. That same calm keeps the prices honest, so your Social Security check and your pension stretch further here than they would in a louder, hungrier city. And third, the path is genuinely doable. The visa, the forms, the health cover, all of it, once somebody shows you the way through. Put those 3 together and here's what you get. Both your money and your peace of mind last longer here. Both of them. That's the whole secret. That's why I chose Adelaide. And it's why Frank did too. You remember Carol, my neighbor, the retired school teacher who's been here 12 years? She told me something over the fence one afternoon early on that I've never forgotten. She said, "Here you don't chase the day sort of ambles alongside you." And I'll be honest, back then I thought it was just a nice turn of phrase. But 4 years in, I've watched it come true in every corner of this life. It's true of the money, no chasing, no scrambling. It's true of the health care, steady, sorted, no panic. It's true of the friendships, the ones that find you at a barbecue when you least expect them. You don't chase the day here. The day ambles alongside you, and that, more than any beach or any sunshine, is what makes this the gentlest place I know to grow old. So picture it for a second. Your own quiet street, your own market fella who knows your name and saves you the good peaches. Feels closer already, doesn't it? Because it is close. That's what I most want you to walk away with today. Growing old somewhere gentle isn't a fantasy, and it isn't complicated once you know the path. It's just a little homework done up front. That's all. That's the thing I ran into cold 4 years ago with nobody to hand me a map, which is exactly why I finally put everything I'd learned into an honest guide I call OnewayGuide. The visa route, the real monthly costs, the quiet little tricks you only stumble onto once you're on the ground. It's simply the shortcut I wish somebody had given me back then, so your first months here are spent enjoying the place, not guessing your way through it. But the guide is just the map. The road is yours to walk, and folks, it is a good road. So here's where I'll leave you. Take your time. Do a little homework, the easy, relaxed kind, no rush. And let yourself really picture that slower, sunlit chapter, the wide South Australian sky, the smell of the gums after the rain, the cockatoos coming in at dusk. Picture yourself in the chair right next to mine, coffee in hand, watching the day amble by. It's doable, folks. It truly is, and it is absolutely worth it. The porch is here whenever you're ready, and there's always an empty chair with your name on it.